Welcome everybody to the latest edition of the Inside Track, Series 9, Episode 1. James, you get to lead us out this time round. We've had about a 6 month break on the podcast, so it's great to be back on. Welcome aboard for starters.
Yeah, appreciate it, man. Always excited to talk industry with you. So,
Yeah,
exciting times ahead.
absolutely. Now, I think timing wise is a really good opportunity to get you on. One, because of everything that's going on in the industry and looking to wellness, and I think the industry is not quite sure where we're going with things. But
Mm.
obviously, with everything you've been doing, and you've come up with something, and we're going to talk about this, that I think one, the industry should adopt. Um, but also it's got some huge value, and it's looking at our business in a whole different way. Instead of looking at it from a financial only perspective, it's actually looking at the clients and the outcomes, which is the most important. So I'll throw it over to you, James, to give the listeners a bit of an idea in terms of what it's all about, what it is, and what we're trying to do, and then we'll go into depth.
Yeah. So I suppose the update since I was probably talking to you last is that I closed down the gym. So I've been running Wild Training as a brand since 2009. We
Wow.
started as purely group outdoor exercise, and pretty quickly that turned into a good business. And so 2011, I started my first franchises of Wild Training, and that was me sharing the ideas of how to develop a successful group outdoor exercise business. And it really even then served as I suppose a development pathway for coaches that wanted to carry on the learning. And we always said
Yeah.
like the level 3 personal training course is a bit like passing your driving test. When you pass it, you're still probably a little bit rubbish at driving. And it would be really handy if everybody had a bit of a mentor, right? And that's what I suppose Wild Training was. And we started to identify ways that we could, I suppose, differentiate ourselves from the kind of services that people were experiencing, whether it was in, any kind of gym facility, group exercise, to just have a little bit more of that purpose behind the training. And I use that word a load. And I think I always define purpose as really what I think you can connect a lot of the most successful brands in the fitness industry with.
Yeah.
But they do two things ridiculously well. The purpose comes from having a good structure around their methodology of coaching. And that could be anything, right? I mean, martial arts gyms have a structure how they deliver their coaching and their progression, their belt system, and all these kind of things and competitions. And CrossFit has a methodology, and now High Rocks and Pilates reformers, people have a structure of how they train, a brand
Yeah.
of how they train. But more than that, they have community, and this is somewhere that they're going to care up and they get cared about. They end up caring about it as well, the people there. And so that's that, it's that third space, it's where I offload, all the drama in my life, and I help other people do the same. And that process of helping is a big deal. And I think that any fitness brand that misses out on purpose, misses out on, I've got to have a good structure and I've got to have a good community and I've got to tangibly cultivate that. That doesn't just happen. A group of people in a room isn't a community, right? You've
No,
got to
exactly.
develop the care. And I think that comes from the top down. That gym culture is always going to come from the people that are running the gym and on the gym floor, and that's sort of what we did with Wild Training. And then, a few different studios, and we ended up with a bigger gym in 2016. And it was a rotter, we gutted it, and then we made it some pretty cool stuff, and we did some slightly
It
different
was very
styles of
unique wild
exercise.
training, though, wasn't it? Because I think one, the building allowed you to be unique, which was, and to be fair, credit to you, because I don't think most people would have taken a motorway underpass and and an old sort of warehouse building and turned it into an amazing facility. So inside it was brilliant. You can't everything outside was rough and tumble almost,
Mm.
and it gave everybody a space to come and do what they wanted to do. But I mean, you guys were truck pulling. I mean, some of the stuff you were lifting. I mean, there's that great video of you going up to Scotland, wasn't it, lifting those stones? But that's the sort of thing you did in the club. It wasn't just the fact that you were
Yeah.
traveling around the country trying to lift these
Mm.
heavy rocks. The club
Yeah.
did that sort of stuff as well, and it was exciting.
Yeah, exactly. That's a lovely word, and I think how many people in the general public go, "Oh, gyms are really exciting."
Yeah.
That's not a word a lot of the general public use, and that's how they think of our fitness industries. You know, exercise is clicky, it's boring, it's not fun, I hate it. And maybe that was how they were introduced to exercise. Maybe that was even going back to PE lessons and things like that, right? So when I put the gym together, I was like, I'm gonna make sure that whoever walks in that door, whoever I speak to, there's something that I'll be able to get them excited about. Because I don't need it to be scientifically the most effective type of I need to make sure it's something they're going to enjoy. Because if they enjoy
Well,
it,
it's a
they'll
big
turn up.
thing, isn't it? That I know Stuart Martin talks about it all the time in terms of movement. Get people moving.
Yeah.
And that's what it's all about. Once you've got them moving, it doesn't matter how they're doing it.
Mm.
Obviously, as a club owner, you want them moving in your club because then they're paying and you're getting the benefit from that. But I mean, because some of the stuff you had, everything from aerial to, I mean, I don't know what the two.
Aerial silks and
Yeah, I
you
mean,
know,
that
mixed
just
martial
look. I
arts,
mean,
Brazilian jiu-jitsu, Muay Thai. We did a lot of strongman. We did a lot of weightlifting. We did a lot of the functional training stuff, but maybe a little bit you know, more heritage based. So looking at lots of, you know, 1940s resistance bands training that in the kind of Eastern Europe sort of where like things like wrestling were very popular. They use resistance bands very differently to the way that the
oh,
fitness
okay.
industry uses them, right? And then things like Indian clubs, you know, 2,500 years of incredible heritage behind health and vitality and strength. And very few people in the fitness industry know about it. And you're like, well, there's a lot of heritage there. You know, we call them Indian clubs because when the British Empire went over to India, they all started training with Indian clubs. There's a huge military thing before, sort of before the World Wars. And then after World Wars, we had the rise of yoga Pilates. And then 60s, the bodybuilding era of the modern fitness industry landed. And then 70s aerobic studios. And then 80s, 90s was the big box, right? We had the treadmills, the cross trainers appear, the fixed bar resistance machines. And you know what? Like the only real step change since then has been this movement towards CrossFit, branding, functional fitness, gyms are opening up their space a little bit more, and then these offshoots of that, looking like High Rocks, looking like, you know, Deca, so the guys behind Spartan and Tough Mudder doing that, events, because what do people want? They want purpose, right? I'm going to train towards an event, a Tough Mudder, a marathon, a CrossFit, a Turf Games, and that's working really well for the people kind of already inside the fitness industry. I think it's working well for people that are looking for a reason to engage with us because it becomes a social, it becomes a community, it becomes I'm training for this thing. And then I
The
think
only
as an
thing I
industry, we
worry
need to get
about, James, is it scares, when I look at like the 83% that currently aren't members of gyms and the growth of High Rock, as brilliant as it is, I think is very good if you're quite a confident person and you enjoy if you played a lot of sport in your time, if you enjoy training at that high intensity. I think we've just got to be careful that we don't scare off the others that are
Mhm.
quite nervous coming into gyms. There's quite a few gyms now that a lot of the messaging comes out. It's train hard, it's hit, it's high rocks, and the people looking at it are like, that's not me. I don't
No,
feel that. I mean, I don't. The great thing you had with Wild is there was a whole mix of stuff. That absolutely, if you wanted to get it strong, man, we're going to do it strong. If you want to do high rocks, we're doing that. And that's what I loved about what you did. And
mm,
some of the videos you have on your silks and stuff like that look so. I think majestic is probably the word because it's not a heavy lifting thing. It's not a fast rapid movement stuff. It's very flowing. It's almost like dance in
yeah, yeah. And I mean,
in a
dance
way,
is a great
dance and
example of a really
gymnastics.
healthy activity, right? I mean, who wouldn't want to look like a salsa instructor, you know? But
Absolutely.
but what's interesting is you know why don't we do that stuff and you know that history of the modern fitness industry I've just described. People will talk about skill and coaching, but the reality is we've actually taken a lot of skill away from people. And from the commercial side of the fitness industry, I kind of get it because you can have a lot more people in the room if all you've got is a bunch of treadmills and you don't have to teach them how to do anything. Whereas, yeah, pre 1960s, it was a lot of skill. You know, like there was a lot of people learning about movement. 1950s American PE program, phenomenal, and they just had
Was it?
hundreds of guys in the sports hall doing essentially, you know, pre-fashion aerobics and calisthenics, and none of it was complicated, but they were taught how to move properly, and it worked, and they got really fit. You know, so I think, as you said, you know, it's the fitness industry creates brands, and I think the fitness industry doesn't create trends. I think it very much follows them, you know. And so people have these ideas and they pick up, you know, something like CrossFit or Higher Rocks. And as you said, I think it serves a group, and you know, there's lots of examples outside of I think the immediate fitness industry. You know, the the fringe sports, and whether they're even fringe anymore. Things like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is a good example,
Yeah,
paddle,
my brother
you
does
know,
that. It's massive now, isn't it?
right. And yeah, and you look at again, they've got community, they've got purpose, they've got structure. But I do think that the challenge the fitness industry has is that it's always going to be expected to follow those trends. And commercially, maybe the difference with wild training was that a lot of gyms don't want to create a trend because that takes time, or it takes a lot of energy. So if it's
Yeah,
just me in my gym, I can put a lot of energy into it and I can show people how they can start with aerial silks. We had plenty of people that had never been in a gym start with us, and they would say something like, I need to get healthy. I want to get fitter, but I'm terrified of going to a gym because I know I won't fit in. And you seem different. I've seen your videos. I've looked at your website. You seem different. And I was like, cool, I've got you. Like, come with me. I'll look after you. I'll show you something. And you listen. Coaching is so much about listening to people. And there's an amount of intuition that comes from experience. And certainly, I think when what I probably did was really go deep and wide with the different skills that I kind of learned about. And I was able to create quite a big toolbox, and maybe I wasn't the best at using all those tools. I'm not going to be able to train a professional MMA fighter, but I know quite a lot about MMA now,
yeah.
and sometimes the least expected clients, they want to kick the crap out of you. And it's not me going jab cross, jab cross. It's me letting them throw them over my shoulder and beat me on the ground, get up and do it again. They love it. And goddamn, I mean, the amount of people that you wouldn't think of like as violent people, a lot of women, they find it so empowering. But I've got fast twitch muscle fiber. We've got an anaerobic exercise system. I can get them moving in different planes of movement, cross line, their
And it's
midline.
probably
And
more natural movement as well.
yeah,
Because obviously if you're putting someone on the various machines in the gym, it's very structured in terms of, and obviously it's designed that way to isolate certain muscles, but it
mm,
doesn't simulate real life.
yeah,
So that sort of
yeah,
training would simulate real life because their body will, all of our bodies will move differently,
mm,
into just slightly differently. Our hips are slightly at different angles and so on. And so allowing them to do activities like that allows them to move their body in the way that their body allows, rather than setting them on a certain route.
yeah. But I think wild training was great, and we got some great accolades. Best gym in Buckinghamshire, and yeah, it was great. Best independent gym, which was lovely.
Anyway,
But
and to be fair, you don't have to name them, but you did have a few celebs down there as well, which was quite nice.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I mean, yeah. I mean, like Steve Backshall is a TV presenter, and I mean,
oh,
I've
he's
been training
awesome,
him
Steve
since
Backshaw.
2009, and obviously his wife Helen Glover would come down there, so helped her through her pregnancy, got her back to fitness after she broke her rib to the Tokyo Olympic Games. All of the athletes from the Paralympic teams that came to train with us got gold medals.
Really?
So, and that was at Paris. So yeah, it was cool. But, I mean, the best stories are the ones that are everyday people. People that go, "Oh, James, I've had debilitating back pain for 10 years," and you fix them after 6 months of coaching. So, of all the weird and wonderful stuff that we did at Wild, I think some of the postural and mobility coaching that we gave people that was very practical, very simple, and seemed to succinctly, like concisely, give people a positive, active, proactive approach to
Yeah.
dealing with any kind of pain or injury they had. That was where I think we created an awful lot of success and retention and trust.
Do you know,
You
it's
think about
nice
all
to
that
hear
stuff.
you talk about that, James, because a lot of gyms get caught up, and quite rightly, they get caught up in the commercials. I need more leads, I need more sales, I need more revenue, I need more profit.
Mm,
And I understand that because it's a business, obviously. But I think the one thing that you guys did, and this is what will come onto your Health England stuff, is it wasn't always about, are we commercially viable?
mm,
Yes, you were. You had the gym for a while, but it was actually, what can we help the clients achieve? Everything that you taught, and we've talked quite a lot. It's always about the benefit to the client. So, what are the client's outcomes? How do we get better for the clients? All the training that you give to your team, I mean, you have an amazing training program. All of that wasn't about making us more commercially viable. It was all about, we get results for our clients, and ultimately that brings commercial success because it
yeah.
brings the people in. But I've never felt, speaking to you, that the commercial success came above the client success.
No, that was, I mean, look, if I wanted to make a load of money, I'd be a salesman in tech.
Yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
I could sell some technology and I'd make a lot of money, right? So But I didn't want to do that. I wanted to do this because I'm good at it and I love it. And you, the commercial success for us came from doing a really good job. Because
Yeah, yeah.
if I help you with your 10-year back pain, where every specialist, Harley Street doctors, everybody has kind of failed you, and then I get you back to deadlifting 100 kilograms for 100, for 20 reps, and doing MMA when you've had sciatica killing you for the best part of a lifetime. Um, you're going to send quite a lot of people my way, and that's what
Absolutely.
happened. So, I think excellence is something that you have to work towards daily, and it yields the results. And the problem is it takes investment. So I think as a coach, I invested most of my time in things I thought might help you. Because I've never met you, right? To coach. So to go, I've got to know enough so that all of these random people with all of these unique backstories, I can help.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and that's where I think most coaches, why do we become coaches? You're on the gym floor and you thought, cool, I'm bigger than that guy, I'm fitter than that girl, I could do this job. So it's a lot of the time it's ego why people get into it. It looks like an attractive lifestyle. I think anybody that thinks it's a cool job doesn't understand how challenging it is as a career.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
and the numbers of the dropouts that become personal trainers tells that story very, very accurately. Because a lot of people don't make it past that first year as a coach, right? But yeah, I think with wild training, I dived into a huge variety of coaching because I wanted to know what were the best tools. And
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think what I've come to an understanding now, and this is where, why didn't you build 10 wild training gyms? Because I wasn't going to scale the skills. I mean, you could scale great coaching, but what we did there was unique. And I've spent 20 years learning how to do it all, and I can teach, yeah, 5 to 10 coaches how to do that to a really high level. 100, 1,000, it's going to slip. It's not a beef burger. It's a hard thing to franchise
Yeah, yeah,
unless
yeah.
you put somebody on a TV. And I think right now what people need more than ever from gyms is that human connection. Right now you and me on chatting online, and it's like so much of this is killing people's health. And we'll get into the misunderstanding of what health looks like from the fitness industry perspective. But these are the things that we need to be much more aware of, and the values that we have to sell. But yeah, so while training taught me a lot, and what it taught me was that great coaching can be really simple. And actually, the most powerful things that I did to empower the community, the coaches, the clients, was actually keeping it simple. And
Yeah,
the tools didn't matter. Like you give me 4 square meters of floor space and I'll light it up. But it's about how you interact with the space and the people. And there was some very powerful rules that we got to in terms of behavior change, because that's the skill. Like instruction is so easy. And I think if you really listen to the fitness industry's lyrics, what most clients ask is, what do I do? What do I need to do to lose weight? What do I need to do to build muscle? What do I need to do to complete a marathon? And what most of the industry very much dives into the details of, so specific in the minutia of these details, the science is the how. This is how you deadlift. It needs to be absolutely perfect,
yeah,
otherwise
yeah.
you're going to kill yourself and end up and yada yada yada. And they go so hard into this unbelievably complex science that people go, okay, yeah, no, that sounds really detailed. I'll do what you say. Not really understanding their own personal values versus what these coaches may be selling them, which is what do most coaches do because of how they entered the industry, because of their ego? They do the things they're really good at. And so a bodybuilder, what does a bodybuilder normally do with their personal training clients?
Yeah, it's going to be
Bodybuild,
weights. Yeah, yeah.
right? What does a distance runner normally do with their clients? And it's going to be distance running, right? Yoga people do yoga. People stick to what they're good at. And what I really wanted to do as a coach was do what was best for you. And what's best for you might not be best for me. So I had to do a lot of learning about stuff that I wasn't necessarily interested in. Man, I've done ballet. There's some really
Oh,
useful
yeah.
stuff in ballet for personal trainers. You look at the lengthening of people's Achilles and developing their posture. And, I've done a lot of weird stuff. And it's great because it gives you a really accurate understanding of where the value is. And for a lot of the time, it's not in the details. It's in the joy of learning and how you can share that with people. So what we left while training with was actually a bunch of rules that didn't it didn't apply to one of the activities. So when people go, oh, your gym did strongman and your gym did, aerial assaults and calisthenics, it's like, yeah, it did. But I didn't need any of it. I picked those things because they really helped me attract and retain and help an awful lot of different types of people. And that
Yeah.
was what I wanted to do with my brand. Uh, whereas what it, as I said, taught me was actually how simple this stuff is. And then you look at what you learn as a personal trainer and what gym owners know. Now, some gym owners used to be the coaches. Some gym owners have never coached. And so everybody's kind of sometimes going at it from different perspectives. But I think that when we look at certainly the health initiatives that have been going over since, the Black Report came out in the 80s, right, under Thatcher's government, and it said the trend of our countries were all becoming way less healthy. And they even tried to block that report from coming out.
Did they?
So yes, yeah. So we know that the health of the country is getting worse, and we didn't really do anything meaningful behind it. And so whilst there's lots of funds available for councils and different organizations to utilize to deliver interventions, for people that are physically inactive, for people that are overweight, for people that are struggling with addiction and things like that. And this is where the fitness industry goes, oh, we're so well placed to help the country with its mental health crisis, with its physical health crisis. And I'd go, well, there are there's some pockets of people in the fitness industry doing some great stuff for the
Yeah.
communities, giving people purpose and making people healthier. Are they measuring it? Not in a relevant way, mostly, right? So that's one challenge. Measure the impact. So if you're going to say the fitness industry is good at this, prove it. Because that's what I keep getting told, prove it, right? No, as I'm going to, don't worry. But
Yeah.
but at the same time, you've got people going, oh, well, the fitness industry is moving towards well-being. Like we had this big conversation the other day, right? And everybody was saying, oh, we've got to think about well-being, whole body health, right? Like, okay, cool. I agree, totally agree. Now walk into any gym, okay? Find yourself 100 coaches, right, on the gym floor, right? Because they're the people in contact with our communities, with our public, you know. So these are guys in the trenches, and these are the most important part of the fitness industry because it's like having a Ferrari with some really bad tires on it. The contact patch matters, right? So let's work on our car tires. They're the coaches on the gym floor interacting with the customers. So you find me 100 coaches, ask them as a group to agree on a definition of good health. Okay, so that's one, and I promise you, if they come out with one answer, I'd be surprised if it's evidence-based, right?
Yeah.
Then you go, okay, now define well-being. What's the difference between health and well-being? Oh, well, yeah, there'll be some sort of holistic answer, right? It's the whole piece. It's the emotional, spiritual, physical, hormonal, mental, even financial, right? Health of an individual, whether that person is happy and thriving in their life. Okay, great. And the fitness industry is well placed to help that person, right? So let's talk about mental health, right? So depression, right? How many coaches understand the mechanics physiologically of depression? Because they're not taught it. So I walk into a leisure center and I go, I would like to help you become a great operator of health, right? Let's become the best leisure operators in the country by doing the well-being thing, but doing it properly, right?
Yeah.
And let's coach your coaches to understand the mechanics of depression, the mechanisms, the vehicles to get people away from those kind of balances in their life, in their hormones, in their heads, and tools like proven coaching behavioral tools that work like every time. Okay, it's great. It's like turning the on button on your TV. If you press the button, the TV goes on, right? If you do the right thing with individuals that are struggling with depression, it works. But I didn't get taught that by my level 3 personal training course. And so I go into this leisure center and I go, okay, so you're telling me I've offered you this system that I've developed, right, for free, okay, but you're telling me you've already got one in place. And they're like, yeah. And I go, okay, so tell me about what you're delivering. What do the coaches do it? I was like, well, tell me who's coached the coaches to be able to do this. Oh, nobody. So you have a level 3 coach. And what training do you give that person on the job? None. Have you checked that they know what they're talking about? No. And you're like, okay, so you've written down a process on a bit of paper that makes sense. It does make sense. What he wrote down made sense. But the people behind it, the contact patch, have not had the training to do it. So when people say the fitness industry's in the right place to help this, they're wrong. It could be we are the right organization, the right industry to support the country change its health, but not right now.
No, I've been saying this for years, James. I don't. If you look at some of the basics the majority of clubs do. I mean, obviously, I go and work with independents, franchise, whatever. Think just simple things like the onboarding. A
Mm,
lot, a lot of the clients don't even get an onboarding and shown the equipment. They're almost just allowed in, and then you start looking and going. So you hear this, we're the first line of defence, we're all of this, but you sort of going, well, actually, currently we've got 16.9% of the population that are members of gyms. So actually, how are we the front line? So that's one challenge. We don't have enough engagement with the population to actually be frontline to anything. That's not our fault. Well, it is, but you know what I mean. We can't be making these statements to say we are this, we are that,
exactly.
and then you look at it. But you talk about depression. You can go as simple as nutrition. How many personal trainers give nutrition advice off a level 3 course? Now, I'm sitting there going, okay, you might read a lot and whatever, but that doesn't give you the skill sets to be a nutritionist.
Hmm.
That's a set. I mean, people go to university and do master's degrees in nutrition to be a nutritionist,
Mm.
and they got a PT with a I don't know 6 week course that's now providing full on. Now, I don't mind someone advising on diets, you know, I mean, healthy carbs, all that sort of stuff. But when you start going in depth and you're writing meal plans for people and stuff like that, most of the PTs don't have the skill set to do that, but yet they're delivering it, and you think actually, guys, we need to upskill people or decide what we're going to be
Mm.
because we haven't got our own house in order as quite as yet
Yeah.
to be that first line of defence and to be
Well,
working with
that's,
the
again, man, we're making these promises and people are creating policies and processes and marketing campaigns that sound correct and sound like they're the kind of things that should engage the 93% of people that aren't walking into gyms or whatever it is, right? But the honest truth is we're not ready to deal with the problems that are facing most of society right now. And we can be, because it is really simple. Like it's not complicated stuff. I've taught my 10-year-olds about this, right? Right now, the modern world really does destroy some of the most powerful neurotransmitters in our body, the kind of hormones in our body that affect our not just our mood, but like your behavior and the reasons why you will choose to do or choose not to do anything, right? If you understand the mechanics of this stuff, and mate, I'm telling you, it's not more complicated than a smart TV remote. You can work out what the buttons do, and then the skill as we develop as coaches is to end up having more ways of delivering those tools, those vehicles, because everybody is a little bit different, but everybody fits in this model. And honestly, in the last 10 years, it has never failed me. So if you've got a system that you can share with people, and I'm going to do this, so I'll be launching a podcast in February. That's the plan, and
awesome.
I will be sharing all of this to I suppose the consumer end, because again, I
Yeah.
just don't trust the fitness industry to create a trend. No,
Can you? No, go on.
no fitness industry business was interested in high rocks until it was big, right?
Yeah.
We don't create trends; the fitness industry follows them. At Wild, I did my own thing because I had a vision, and I was excited about it. And I was excited about it enough to not necessarily push the envelope in terms of like profit at the expense of me developing all that knowledge and skills and proving it, with a lot of different people. And that's where I really enjoyed that process. And it was lovely to not only find things that worked really well, it was really powerful to find things that didn't work. My
Yeah.
experience with running a CrossFit affiliate was very interesting. The methodology isn't a complete disaster. It has its place. And certainly I thought the most kind of challenging thing about CrossFit was not so much the brand or the methodology, but the culture. And as you said, it's in its decline, not only as a brand, but that style of hit training is in decline right now, versus where it was. And I think people are working out that more stress isn't necessarily good, more volume, more work capacity isn't necessarily what the vast majority of the population needs. And there is a massive gap between fitness and health. And I would love everybody to really understand the definitions of those two words,
Yeah, yeah.
because me trying to do Conor McGregor's fight fitness program isn't really relevant because I'm not Conor McGregor, and I'm not trying to be a professional fighter, And I think sometimes people really struggle with that. Like, if I'm not trying to be a professional CrossFitter, do I need to try and train like a professional CrossFitter? I find it interesting that a lot of the pro CrossFit guys, when they finish CrossFit, stopped doing a lot of CrossFit. So to them, it was a paycheck, right? Whereas they all seem to diversify their training an awful lot when they stop competing.
All right.
I think that's something that everybody should wake up to. But I think the point is we really aren't set as an industry to make the change. And I think my goal is now that I've not got the gym, to build a podcast to share as much of this as I can with consumers so that they start to have a better awareness of the kind of things that they should be looking for in a gym service, in a coaching service. And so that we can just educate people at every level. Yeah, at the same time, we're going to share all of the resources with schools, NCT groups, businesses that will listen. Because if
But
you're
do you
going to
want to
be a
talk about
parent,
a lot of what this is then in terms of what it's called? And because I know the theory behind it, because obviously you talked about CrossFit there
hmm,
in the sense that a lot of our training in our industry at the minute is very much the same. It's structured in this way, but it's done that way so that they can control the quality of it. But CrossFit sits outside of that, which was
yeah,
quite
yeah. And
interesting.
I always think that's an interesting one that nobody talks about. So it's really important that we've got our level 2 and our level 3 personal training qualifications, right? Until you want to open a CrossFit gym, and then it's irrelevant. And so to open
I
up
never knew this.
to open up a CrossFit gym now, they've changed the affiliate rules, but you have to be a level 2 CrossFit coach. And so they have level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4. And like any big brand, and the fitness industry is always going to do this, right? Any topic, people will just argue about it. But you've got to respect the global phenomenon that it is, and what Greg Glassman did with branding functional fitness work, and he developed a education program. And whilst everybody will always criticize any kind of education program, you know, a level 4 CrossFit coach is a serious thing. There's not that many in the UK. And you have to take a lot of time to achieve that level of award from CrossFit. But they don't also need a level 3 personal training qualification to operate a CrossFit box to be insured to do so, right? And so I just think it's interesting that we get sold this kind of story that you've got to have level 3 personal trainers, and I'm like, well, like I said, that course has declined in its quality over the last 15 years, and I don't think
Oh,
there's
massively.
very many people that would be able to argue that. I could qualify online. I reckon I could get it done in 4 weeks, and I would only have to send a video assessment or a couple of video assessments in. I'd never actually have to go to see somebody. Like, that's ridiculous. And these are the people on the gym floor in contact with our customers that are trying to, they're not trying to, they need to be able to help people that are struggling with life. And they're not just struggling with being overweight. They are struggling with depression. They're struggling with anxiety. They're struggling with addiction. They're struggling with behavior change. And those courses don't train that, and I mean, it's as patronizing as something like SMART goals. And you're like, don't teach a personal trainer SMART goals and tell me they're a coach, because that's ridiculous. It's not good enough. We can do so much better. And it's not more complicated. I'm not talking about studying neuroendocrinology and behavior psychological kind of coaching, which is, I've gone down a lot of those roads, but it's those
I
little
think they
bits of
need to understand
practical.
some of that, though. You know what I mean? If you get somebody in who hasn't really trained, well, it doesn't matter what their goal is. You need to understand how behavioural change works. You need to
Yes,
you need
yes,
you need to
but
understand that to be able to adapt it.
I think there's some tools there, that we can give coaches in a much more concise way than asking them to go and do some degrees, you know? And
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
that's what I've tried to do. And that's what I was saying. What did I take out of wild training? It wasn't how to climb an aerial silk. It was how to make coaching super simple and very flexible, diverse, so that it's relevant for lots of different types of people. And that's what I want to share, because I'm not going to go everybody should be doing kettlebell training because I think kettlebell training is the best. These are the arguments that the fitness industry has had for decades, right? It's like my training's better than yours. And you're like, dude, it's cool. If you're helping people, I love you. Like, I don't care what you use. What I care about is when somebody walks into your gym, you don't fail them.
Yeah,
And that's happening a lot. And this is the 16%. Okay. We fail the 84% because they either don't want to walk into your gym or they walk back out. After a little while, they leave and they don't come back.
well, I
They're
heard
the
an interesting stat
failures.
yesterday, James. There's more. This was apparently at the retention convention last week. There's more members or non-members now that have been members before than there are currently members in gyms. So
Yeah.
there's more ex-members sat at home doing nothing, not engaging with fitness or gyms anyway. They might be doing sport, but you don't know. But there's more ex-members than there are currently members in our clubs. That's
As an
frightening.
industry, that's the number we have to attack.
Yeah,
Like of all of our KPIs, like that's got to be the number that we attack, right? Because then we're doing a better job for more people. And what else can matter? Because again, we can all argue about what health is and what fitness is and the right approach to diet and the right approach to exercise for different types of people, right? But until we change that public perception and until we change our ability to engage and retain, we all know what works. Okay. And it's consistency. And the only way somebody's going to train consistently is if they enjoy it with purpose, community, structure, enjoyment. Okay. These are words that you're not hearing at these conventions, right?
no,
And it's like, like, come on, guys, let's now we know the why. We have a why, right? Simon Sinek talks about it. Start with
yeah.
why. Okay. So we have a why. Now we can talk about the how and the what. Okay. And I believe too much in what I've seen for 20 years that it's the interaction between the people that matters. And that interaction cannot be something that we assume is going to go well. So as a leisure center operator, as a gym operator, I will never assume that the person I just hired has all the skills. Because they don't. They're young, and we should nurture them and mentor them and support them. And I just don't see that happening. Team training, coach training, staff training is an afterthought and an inconvenience. And I think if that could be one side of what we change the fitness industry, that would be great. It's going to be hard to convince anybody to change that because where's my immediate money? I got told this the other day. It's like, okay, but how's that going to make me more money right now? So I just said, I straight away, I just said, it's not going to. But talk to me in 5 years. How do you know that? And I was like, well, fair enough. I haven't had a big enough, I haven't had a 6,000 member gym to prove this in. But let me
Yeah.
do it for you. Like, no, we don't want to change what we're doing. And you're like, oh God, I just offered to help you for free. And you said no. So that's going to be tough. Okay, so now I'm going to go back to we don't create trends, we follow them. So I'll create a platform. I'll invest loads into trying to get this message out. I'm going to give it to schools. I'm going to give it to parents. I'm going to give it to businesses, and I'm going to put it online. And then when enough people are talking about what we do with Health England, then I will share it with gyms that I trust will actually implement it properly with our support.
You
So,
want to explain
so
exactly
what?
what it is then? I mean, obviously, I know. I've seen your stuff. Do you want to explain exactly what
Yeah.
what it is that you're trying to do? So if club did like what you're saying and went, oh, I'm going to give James a shout.
So healthengland.org.uk, the website's live, and I suppose in a lyric, it's everything I've learned about coaching in 20 years that is practical, and it's not as detailed as, this is how you should be swinging a kettlebell. That's not what it is. It's all the stuff I'm telling you that I think is probably missing. And it's an incredibly simple way of defining what health is and going beyond physical health and starting to talk about hormone health and mental health and what it gives individuals and influences in our community. And I think of those people as teachers or sports coaches or NCT group leaders, people that have influence over the people in their communities, or coaches. We have through three different levels of coaching, essentially. The fourth level is what we would consider a tutor's award. So somebody would be able to support teaching of those other awards, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But it gives people access to an incredibly simple manual of health. So if you do these things, you will be in the top 95% of the healthiest people in this country. And what it stops is any of these arguments about methodology, right? So I don't care how you're active. I care that you're active.
Yeah,
Okay. And I care that you do it with people that care about you and that you care about purpose. Okay. And it explains the mechanics of that. So Health England is built on four pillars. And this is backed by a lot of evidence and a lot of study of the whole picture of health. And I find what I talked about earlier with the fitness industry, people ask us what to do, and we focus on how to do it. I focus on why people should do it. And so what this hopefully helps people get closer to is engaging more people for longer with real enjoyment and purpose behind their training. So the four pillars of health, and this is the mantra, right, for Health England. And this is what we want kids to grow up with. We want parents to stick to, is to be active, to be outdoors, to be together, and to be passionate. And passions are things that we either pursue or we share. I think that's a really important one. And for anybody that thinks that that sounds wishy-washy, like when you see the vehicles, the mechanisms behind those coaching pillars, they're incredibly powerful. They're incredibly versatile for different types of people. Whether you're talking to the the novice, the person that would never step in the gym and they want to be healthier, they don't want to join a gym. We've got to try and communicate with those people. And at the same time, it's almost at the other end of the spectrum. I got into the industry as a bodybuilder, as an ultra marathon runner, as a CrossFitter. And I found my purpose. I found my people. I found my structure. It helped me get fitter. But fitness doesn't correlate all the time to health. And a lot of people get this wrong. They think the fitter I am, the healthier I am. So, no, no, no. Because if you're healthy, you're not injured at all, right? Health,
yeah.
a state of being absent of illness or injury, and that is physical illness or mental illness, right? So I know loads of people that dive so hard into the fitness industry because of their status, that they end up injuring themselves. CrossFit's a good example of that. A lot of people go into that system, which is fine and great that the coaching skill, the coach is very centric to that system. But people go a little bit too heavy and a little bit too hard and a little bit too often. And then
Look how
we
many
see a few
bodybuilders and people
injuries.
like that have eating disorders.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, easy. Yeah,
Can't remember his name. Ben something who's an ex. He talks about it all the time. He's an influencer. I can't think of his surname, but he talks about it and said when he was really training and doing the bodybuilding stuff, he had an eating disorder. He wasn't healthy. He was
yeah,
incredibly
totally.
fit and he looked good,
Yeah,
but it doesn't mean he's
bodybuilding,
healthy.
martial artists that maybe find a community, find a sport they love, get into a couple of competitions. Now they're doing water cuts because they're trying to make weight, and it's a slippery road. And is that healthy anymore? It's not. It's a very weird culture. So there's loads of examples of that. Distance running's the same. So fitness doesn't always correlate to health. These four pillars start to really give people some foundations to a long, healthy life with good well-being that's completely sustainable. And it gives us some really interesting systems to coach with, because then we start to dive into how do you deliver that then? Well, we've got 7 triangles that cover every aspect of health I've ever had to talk to anybody about. So this goes from what physical health is, what fitness is, what good nutrition is, what good sleep is, what good hormone health is, what good mental health is. So we talk about these triangles, and we use it as a triangle because 3 things are quite easy to remember, you know,
Yeah,
and they work, and we've proved them time and time again. And the smartest piece of Health England that wraps all of this together isn't even to do with the things that I've just said. It's to do with the coaching behavior change. So we have
yeah.
a few models of how to coach change in behavior. And that might be you're an elite athlete and you need to start to accept that you're not an elite athlete and you're a dad. And you don't need to train like an elite athlete to be an elite dad. They're not the same thing. And if you're conflicted like that, you think you're going to be in a good state of well-being? That's a very hard place to be,
Yeah,
because I know the bodybuilding gym is my community. I know that's my third space. That's great for my mental health. The fact that I've got a mad shoulder impingement injury and my knees don't really work anymore is a hard thing for me to work around. and it's making the rest of my life not feel quite so good. And I could have that conversation with a CrossFitter or somebody who loves Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or a distance runner, you know? It's my thing. I can't not do my thing. And I was like, look, I want you to do your thing until you're 90. But to do that, I need to give you a couple other tools and I need to give you a why it's important to you. And that's where coaching starts to become gold dust. And it's not complicated. If we use proven models to get people past the barriers to change, some of them are hormonal, some of them are mental, some of them are social. But there are tools that you can give coaches that are super easy to understand. Yeah, lots of them are based on acronyms. How much does the fitness industry love an acronym, right? But nobody gets taught this stuff as a level 3 coach. You know, if you're lucky, people get into NLP stuff. Even that, I mean, I studied that. That's got nothing on what I'm talking about. That's arguably more complicated than what I'm talking about as well.
Do
So
you know
so
what I
that's what
like,
helping them.
James? Oh, sorry, go on.
Yeah, that's what it is. It makes coaching health really simple. The best systems in the world are simple, and that's what makes them scalable. While training wasn't scalable, that had a weirdo gym owner behind it who loved his job, right? Health England is. Health England's scalable because it's not about the what, it's about the why. And I think it will help us engage the fitness industry missing, market, which is that 85% of people that don't trust us, and they shouldn't, because our coaches aren't coached, they're not trained, they're not mentored to do what they really are looking for, which is to improve their health. Could they teach them how to do a squat? Absolutely. Could they teach them the basics of a nutrition and how to lose some weight? Yes. But that's not the challenge. The challenge is getting them to want to do it, and they are completely unqualified to do that.
But also, I'll tell you the great thing that I like, and having spoken to you about this a bit, is the fact this is actually also quite a lot of societal change, because you're not saying we need to get these coaches into gyms. Yes, that's part of it, but you're talking about working with teachers, working with the youth groups, all those different areas. You sort of going, actually, our level one is perfect for teachers, but what that allows them to do is obviously when they're doing the PE lessons, when they're having those sort of sessions, is to actually be better at what they're doing. Get that information out to the kids. When you know what I mean, in all these different areas, we don't um, we don't need 100% of the population to be in the gym. We've got a lot of people who play sport. So I think the activity level in the country is probably higher than 16.9, obviously with all the sport and that. But what we need to do, we've got to change this mindset. Pardon me. Um, and that starts with the kids in the schools. But you're working on the community,
Yeah.
and yes, the gyms are part of that, and we want to grow the number of people in there and the better coaching in there. But what this does, it actually starts the process early, because you're working with schools and so on. So you got the kids at an early age. You got then that goes into families. Now it's happening at home. Do you know what I mean? So you actually, it's a massive job you're taking on, but I love it because it's not just going, right, I'm going to give coaches the skills to do this. What I'm doing is, yes, we can form a massive part as a fitness industry to take this forward, and this should be the approach. But we're also going to work on the community as well. So there's going to be other people out there. They won't be the level threes delivering the personal training and that type of, but there'll be the teachers. There'll be those other people in society that are able to give across the right message. So hopefully, then they go from school, go to that, and then end up in the gym doing
Well,
that high roller, whatever it
we've
is.
said this kind of thing for years, right? Why do police, why do firefighters go into schools? To engage and to educate, and to empower, right? Why don't gyms do that? So the community center wants more members, but we're not going to engage with that community for peanuts. Maybe we'll do some charity things in a shopping center. It's like, well, like, no, get out of there, man. So that's the mission. And like I say, we've got a roadmap to deliver it. It's scalable, and that's why you go. I'm going to rip everything out of this coaching head that I've got to make sure that I'm only talking to people about what they need, and they can fill the gaps with their own language, with their own style, because that's the honesty. Is people go, that doesn't work and that does work. That's what we hear all the time in the fitness news. You shouldn't be doing that. You should be doing this. Oh, that's not good for you anymore. They've changed their mind. The science says this. And you're like, just move, and enjoy it with people. If you can do that outside, epic. If it can be something you're passionate about, badass. If you can do that with a little bit of guidance around the most important pieces of health, cool. I don't want to argue with anybody about fitness, but I will argue with people about health because
Yeah,
I think as a country, we can scale health education because there's so much consensus evidence about the most effective ways of making the unhealthy healthy, right? So if you're injured, there's a way to fix that. If you're
yeah,
ill, there's a way to fix that. If you're at high risk of serious illness, there are clear indicators that are very easy to measure where we could prove impact, right? And most gyms aren't measuring these. We've got a fancy 3D fat scanning machine. And you're like, that's not what the evidence says we should be measuring. Commercially, I understand they have their place to help you make money. And I'm not going to argue with you about that. But I can't ignore all of the things that we're not doing that are based on evidence, how we define health and how we can help people improve it. And that approach to coaching doesn't need to be changed. It needs to be simplified so we can scale it to children and teachers. I live in Buckinghamshire. 55% of teachers teaching PE aren't qualified to do so. They don't feel confident to do so, but nobody's doing anything about it. So PE, primary schools in the UK, they get the Sport and PE Premium Grant, which came out of the 2012 Olympic Legacy. So roughly, depending on the size of the school, it's about £16,000 a year. And they can either use it on sports equipment or they can use it on developmental kind of coaching for either the students or the staff. Now, there are schools that are misusing that money because I'm not sure it's kind of accounted for particularly effectively. But there are schools trying to use that, but they're using it in that almost race to the bottom model of like after
yeah,
school or preschool kind of activities. So there's lots of businesses that are doing these things. They're not paying their coaches very well and they're not charging the schools very much, but they're doing it at scale, so that's where they get their business from. What I'm trying to convince schools to do is to take on Health England. Right now, we're going to be running a couple of case studies with a few schools in my county. Some are grammar schools, some are primary schools. Just go, look, I promise you, if we agree on some measures, not only of health, but of performance measures you guys have, maybe we're looking at, grades, if we're looking at behavioural kind of point systems that
yeah.
the schools have now, I'd take the bet. I take it for as big a wedge as you want to give me, that it will do. Well, I know it will do because like I said I've
But you
seen
only
it.
have to look at the impact of sport
Mm,
on education and performance,
yeah,
and then suddenly now you're going to make people healthy. I mean,
yeah,
there's loads of stuff out there in terms of the food kids eat and how they concentrate and stuff. But if you suddenly get a kid who's active, they're healthy, their mind's going to work better. They're going to be more comfortable. They're going to pay more attention. So of course they're going to get better grades.
yeah.
I mean, my dad's got an amazing story. I tell it all the time. But he was bottom set pretty much everything when he was about 10 or 11. And one of the teachers came up to him and said, right, tomorrow you come to the swimming pool, you're going to start swimming. Started swimming, ended up swimming for England. Didn't quite make the GB team, but swam for England. And he ended up top set for everything. And he, to this day, my dad's 82 now, and to this day, he still knows the teacher's name, and he almost wells up when he talks about it because he said that moment
It's his
changed
life.
my life,
Yeah, and
and
that's the
that's what
thing, man.
sport
So
does, and fitness can do the same, and health.
absolutely, and sport's a wonderful thing, but it really isn't for everybody.
No, no,
And
exactly.
so it's reading's the same, right? Try and get a kid to read something they don't want to read. Okay. But if you can find something they're passionate about, and I don't care if it's a comic book, I don't care if it's a Warhammer book, but if you put something in front of them and they want to read it, they'll read it. Right. And activity is the same thing, right? I sucked at football as a kid, right? And what happens then is you get the guys that are a bit better at football and you guys get the sucker, the
Yeah.
rubbish at football, right? What happens is these guys get more practice and the gap gets bigger and bigger and bigger. And what did I think? I think I was the unfit one. I wasn't the sporty one at school. That was me, you
That
know?
shocks me.
I know, right? So everybody goes, oh, James must have grown up doing gymnastics. Did I? I didn't. But this is my passion, right? If you show somebody the right thing, locally, we have a private school. People pay a lot of money to go there. And there was a kid there, and he was when I met him, 12 years old, and he was 114 kilos. And he came to me because he was injured. And so I was helping him out with his hips. And how did you get injured? At the minute, we're focused on hurdles at school. And every time, I do the hurdles, I hurt my hip. And I'm like, you're 110 kilos, like jumping over a hurdle. That's insane. So of course you're going to get injured. And I got really angry with the PE teacher who said that well, he's got to learn how to do it. And I was like, oh, kick your ass.
It's
Because I was
just
like, okay,
nonsense,
you
isn't
you
it?
come out and do the hurdles with me, okay? And I'm going to chuck a ruck on your back. I'm going to put 30 kilos on your back, okay? And I just want to
Absolutely.
see what happens to your hips, buddy. Um, but that's a private school, dude. Those they've got funds
They're
to
supposed to be
to
professional
recruit.
coaches, probably. Yeah, exactly. That
Exactly. And so it's the lack of, I think, compassion that we need when we're coaching individuals. So when I coach you, I'm not going to coach you how to do the stuff that I love. I'm going to find the stuff that you love.
yeah,
And we can coach coaches and teachers how to do that through starting to link up, with lots of the different amazing activity-based organizations we have in the UK. So yes, there's loads of different sports, swimming and paddle and rugby and football and netball and archery and all of it, right? It's so many benefits we can give people. And that's great. And the fitness industry could do the same, but it just takes a really tangible, different approach to the education we have for our coaches, for the way that we talk about what we do as a service to the public, and also talking to the public about it. Because if we don't set their expectations of what can I get from my leisure center, well, it's a gym facility, a suite with cardio and resistance machines and some weights and a studio and a swimming pool and some racket clubs and maybe an astroturf. None of that sounded like well-being to me. But the fitness
yeah.
industry keeps going, oh yeah, we're great at well-being. It's like we suck at well-being.
It's,
We could be great. We could be the best. We could create the healthiest turnaround of any country the world has ever seen. We could do that. And I will try my best to help everybody achieve that. Like if
well, I'm
anybody's watching
100%
this,
behind you, James. Absolutely. I love what you're trying to do, and I think what we need to do is just get it more exposure. Obviously, we need to work on funding. So if there's anybody out there who wants to support James on this, it's or work with James. I'll put the details at the start, and the end of the podcast, so you'll be able to log on and speak to you. But I it's always hard with things like this because it's a fundamental mind shift, isn't it, in terms of how people are doing it. And I admire anybody who's going right. We need to change the narrative because the narrative's wrong. It's not.
Mhm.
It's not that we haven't got enthusiastic people. It's not that
Yeah,
we've got to change the narrative. And when we change the narrative, unfortunately, a lot of the structure that's currently in place needs to shift with it. So it's a big job. But I think if we get this right and what you're doing, James, and that gets filtered out across the UK in schools, in clubs, in I think we'll suddenly find the health of the nation. So when you've got MPs and they're going, "Oh, we're going to work more closely with cardiac rehab and everything else," and you sort of go, "Actually, that's probably quite a small position. That's not our niche. That's why I always complain about our industry chasing the NHS. The NHS actually isn't who we need to chase because it feels the NHS is massive, but it's still a small amount of people when you take what we've got to do is go after the general pop
mm,
and get them in and changing their lifestyles, and then they won't reach the NHS. And
I
then we go
agree.
after the NHS once we've
But
what
again, I mean, like, we're chasing the NHS because we're chasing the people that are sick and we can make them healthy. But they're sick probably because they weren't living particularly healthy lifestyles because they don't want to, and this is the honesty. There's loads of people out there that don't care about their health until they're forced to care about their
yeah.
health. And what they're going to look for is the most convenient intervention. They're going to look for a drug. They're going to look for a knee brace. And they're not going to look at the fitness industry because we aren't good enough to help that person change their values, to change their why, and change their behavior. Because we don't get taught about that stuff. That's why I would like to share with people. Is just to teach that coaching concepts.
I think we
But I
need to
think
because not Ursa, HFA's in London in September next year, isn't it?
that's right.
I think we need to speak to Doug Miller and get you on stage talking about this.
I'm
It's
ready, man.
I'll have a chat with Doug for you because it's that sort of audience you need, isn't it?
Yeah, I'd love
It's
that.
the people like UK Active should be reaching out to you, going, "This is where we want to go." Um, Sim Spa, because obviously they're the training. They're the people that really should be reaching out and going, actually, maybe we do need to have a look at a different approach. Let's speak to James and see how we can do that, because
I think
it's not
there's
as
there's
if you're
certainly
charging for this at the minute. You know what I mean? You're giving it away for free.
I
That's
think
the
I
amazing
think
thing.
a new idea of a minimum standard, and a consensus based on evidence of how we coach health is something we can all agree on. We don't need to care about, what you want to run in your gym, how you model it, the commercials. I don't need to argue about that. But how we deliver health, if we do it consistently and we repeat that, in effective campaigns to the public, everybody will start to understand how simple living healthy is. Being healthy is easier than being super fit. And that makes it more accessible. We stop alienating. We stop everybody looking like a High Rocks pro, right? I don't care if you're fit. I care that you're healthy, physically, mentally, hormonally. And we can achieve that so easily if we share the information, which is, it's simple. It's just nobody get taught it. That's what I've realized is I was like, why is nobody else talking about this? I was like, nobody else knows. It's like nobody's joined up all these dots. You're like, okay, cool. I'll share it with you because it's really simple. And I've given it to 15-year-old girls struggling with eating disorders, addicts, and it transforms their life quickly because it's effective. It's very direct coaching. And I think because it
What a great
works,
thing as a coach, though, to actually have someone. I mean, I remember one of our coaches, and they reversed diabetes because they've got this person healthy rather than fit, and the feeling the coach had from helping that person was probably as life changing for the coach as it was actually for the individual whose life they changed.
yeah, yeah, no, it's and helping is a big part of our model. So when it says be together, when we talk about how we deal with depression, understanding the mechanics of being helped, helping others is very, very powerful. But look, it's we're going in the right direction. People are starting to listen. We've now got a platform, healthengland.org.uk is it's ready. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. It never will be, right?
The more people
But
that
does it
come on
work?
board, yeah, the more people that come on board, the more evidence you get, the more coaches you got that you're working with, the
Mm.
better it'll only become because you've
Yeah,
got more
and
minds
and
feeding
look,
into it.
Health England, the resources we have is it unbelievable. They're incredible. I'm honestly think it's the best coaching resource that I've ever found because it's simple. But that's not because of me. That's because I listen to a lot of really smart people and I put it all together. And
Yeah.
and so there's no ego in this, and I'll collaborate with anybody that's got the right intentions, that's got experience, or yeah, something that can help us get it going. Because it has to, And I think, the country is in a weird place right now, like socially, politically,
Oh, yeah.
economically. Health is a big part of that.
But
100 years
maybe
ago.
it's a good opportunity to get health on the agenda. I was talking
Mm,
to, funnily enough, I was talking to Doug Miller the other day about the HFA, and if
mhm,
we can get health on the agenda, because if you think about it, when you go for any election, when was the last time you saw in an election that health itself? Now the NHS is always on there, needs more money, we're going to invest in it,
mm.
but that's not health. That's just pumping money into a big sack, black hole.
Yeah. But
But they
I
never
think
talk about health.
politics is similar to the fitness industry and what I'm saying, that they don't create trends. The fitness industry is not going to want to do anything that I'm talking about because they don't want to waste their time, waste their effort, waste any money doing something different unless somebody demands something different. Politics is the same. They're not going to talk about this unless they believe it will get them to be voted. So this is why one of the most important things of what I'm talking about is the public campaign. So
Yeah,
so me going into schools and me creating a podcast and me working with NCT groups and me working with businesses is not me having fun and it's not me trying to make loads of money. It's me making sure that one day that all these conversations that these fitness industry veterans that we're talking to about leading the fitness industry forward in a really positive way, which is incredible. Like this group of people is going to do something great for the fitness industry, but it's not going to start really powerfully with the fitness industry if we don't start talking about better public communications and better public perception of what we can deliver. Saying the fitness industry can support well-being and better health is a lie,
yeah,
because Everybody doesn't trust us. We are the car salesmen of the 90s. They are all convinced you're going to try and sell them a gym membership that they're never going to be able to get out of, that they're probably not going to use because they're probably not going to like it. That's our fault. We can change that.
Absolutely, 100% it's our fault. We've allowed ourselves to become a sales business rather than a health business.
And I
It's,
get it, man. Right on for people that want to make money. For me, if you're a CrossFitter, you're going to go to a CrossFit gym, and they should do that the way they want to do it. Same with martial arts, same with high rocks, same with ballet, same with Pilates. For me, leisure centers have an obligation to engage every part of our communities so that they can enjoy good health, like a library. I actually think libraries are an interesting kind of thing. So people are probably using libraries less yet now,
yeah.
right? And the government's going, oh, we need a health hub in every community. Well, like every community's got a library, right? So I want you to go to the library to use a computer and yeah, use it as a place of connection and study. But why can't we make them health hubs? Like, why can't we put a thing in the corner where you go, oh, this is where you're going to check in with these three evidence-based biomarkers, these metrics, and we know this is good health. So my job is to keep everybody in my community with three green ticks by their name. And if you don't have a green tick by your name, you're in my system, and I'm coaching you and I'm helping you, right? And then my other job is not only have you got your three green ticks, so I know you're healthy physically, but I'm looking at my four pillars of health and whether you're engaging with them in some sort of, pocket, and whether that's a gym or a paddle center or a cycling club, I don't care. I just want you to engage in one of them, right? If we did that and we created some properly holistic, joined up thinking across sectors, how damn would we be a bunch of fit minxes in the UK, right?
I love that idea. No, you're right, but it's just not. It's just not factored in, and they wonder why. What is it? 1/5 of the NHS budget is paid on diabetes alone,
Yeah, something like
and
130
most
billion a
of
year
that,
for health.
yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? But I think that's a great place to end, James, because that's gone really fast. We've had you on for an hour and 15 minutes. Wow. I think you're doing amazing stuff, James, and I think you should be incredibly proud of what you're putting together. What we need now is the industry to come together. I know we've obviously got our group that we're working with, and we're going to try and help and push that forward. But I think the whole industry needs to get behind things like this, change the narrative, change where we're going, and change how we do things. And that way, we'll get the government funding because we actually looks like we can deliver stuff. Whereas at the minute, the public don't trust us, and neither do government. And that's where we're at. And we need things like this that will give us an actual in to allow us, and then it just grows, doesn't it? So I really appreciate your time. If anybody wants to get in touch with James, all his details will be over the podcast or in the post itself. But yeah, thanks for your time, James. Really appreciate that.
No, my pleasure, man. Always a pleasure. Take care.
Take care.